Hey everybody, welcome to the Quick Draw. I am Mike, your host, as well as my co-host here, John at Kemuri Hiroyoku. He's our token black guy. And with us is our token Canadian, Kelly, at Blue Fox Assassin. We actually can reveal her name now.
It's not redacted anymore.
It's not redacted anymore.
Redacted.
It's not a secret. So last week we had a really cool conversation about gun rights. This week, we're going to talk about one of the rights that the Second Amendment is designed to protect.
Oh, I thought it was about cake.
Cake is right, okay? Just ask the gays, all right?
I was told there was going to be cake. The only reason I agreed to do this show.
If you ask the gays, apparently cake is a right. I didn't know that it was a right, but if you're gay and you want cake, you are entitled to cake. Or am I getting that wrong, Kelly?
I don't know. Something about cake. I don't know. Where?
I was like, cake's good, right? I was like, so, but yeah, it's you know, I think we were centering what on the Masterpiece Cake, Cake Shop. So yeah, they were had a gay couple come in that decided that they wanted a gay wedding cake, even though this guy has a long-standing policy of not doing that, and now they're suing him basically because apparently they have to have it from that particular baker. Well, that's going to the Supreme Court. I don't think it's gotten there yet. I think it's still...
They did oral arguments.
It has, yeah.
Okay. Okay, because I know it's headed there. So yeah, it's just, it's that thing where it's like, hey, let's hunt down the one baker in the area that's going to refuse us and only work with that one. Because apparently that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's funny because they're based in Denver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm from Colorado. There are two liberal cities in all of Colorado, Denver and Boulder. I find it really hard to believe they could not find one bakery in either of those cities that would service them.
Especially given that they're in Denver. So the thing is, it's really one of those.
They could probably find someone who would not only service their gay wedding with cake, but put some weed in it at the same time.
Right.
Absolutely, and it just lets you know really that, and I find that really despicable because it lets you know that they're hunting them down. You know that they targeted them.
Oh,
This is not a case where they just happened upon this innocent little shop and figured out, oh no, we didn't realize that they didn't. He has a long-standing rule of doing this. You think anyone in the area would know?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you don't have to fight this. All you have to do is go somewhere else. But no, they have to attack this guy. And I was reading another article. I didn't spend like a grand amount of time on it, but I did read pretty much most of it. And they, talking about how a common argument I hear is where they're like, okay, if you want to run a business, you have to be willing to abide by the local laws. And part of those laws is you're not allowed to discriminate based on any of these protected things. And it's like, but he's not discriminating. He does do cakes for gay people, just not wedding cakes specifically. And then people get into all these stupid hypotheticals about, well, what if a white guy decides that he doesn't want to take a black guy? First of all, as a black guy, I wouldn't care. I'd go somewhere else because, I'm not insane. But second of all, if they're discriminating solely because I'm black, that's very different than saying, look, I won't do it for, like, if I came in there and wanted to get a cake that was like, BLM says that all white people are scum, that's very different than if he says, oh, it's just because you're black. No, it's because you're promoting something I don't want to promote, some idiotic message about white people. That's very different. And
and
I see that as a big difference. Yeah.
I feel like on this one, like, I'm kind of a fence sitter on this one. Well, not really, but if I want to just kind of play on both sides a little bit, there's nothing really in, and Mike, you can correct me on this one if I'm wrong, but there's nothing really anywhere in the Christian belief system that says thou shalt not bake cakes for gay people. Like, on one hand, I can see the argument, okay, you know what, it's a fucking cake. We're not asking you to perform the service. We're not asking you to, have the wedding at your shop. It's a fucking cake. And instead of writing, congratulations, Jack and Jill, it's congratulations, Jack and Bill. And get over yourself and bake the fucking cake. On the other hand, like you do have, like I feel like this couple is taking it way too far. Like they could have written a bad review on Facebook and said, "Oh, he refused service because we're gay." But I don't think anyone would hold it against another business if they were closed on Sundays because for religious purposes, or closed on a holiday for religious purposes. Nobody would be saying they're violating my cake buying rights because they're closed on this day or whatever. Or nobody says anything about that. Right? Nobody has any qualms, right?
I think you bring up an interesting point too. Like the bakers. No, the conservatives in general, even Christians, right? What did the bakers say they didn't want to do? They didn't want to participate in gay marriage. In other words, they did not want to create a cake. They did not want to put their name to something that was viewed as supporting a particular event. They weren't saying like we hate gays. They weren't saying like we refuse to service gays. They were saying we don't believe in gay marriage. We really don't want to support it. But most and that's about as extreme as it gets as far as like most Christian conservatives. You know, we got those, Westboro Baptist assholes that nobody likes who are Democrats anyway. But those are minority. The vast majority of people, I would think, among conservatives, the two extremes are I don't want to participate, find someone else, or I don't give a shit. Yeah, okay, I'll make you the fucking pay. Just pay me.
Right.
Like those are the two extremes. Like that's a pretty centrist view. Really, it's like leave me alone. Go find someone else to do your cake for you, or yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna like it. Right?
Legit. Okay, so I watched an interview with this guy, and he's so like he's not an asshole. He wasn't being an asshole. He was actually being. When you look at the interview, he was being honest. Like he could have lied and said, look, I'm just really busy. I can't do it. Sorry. And we wouldn't be having this case. But he decided he's going to be honest. Say, look, I'm really sorry, but I don't feel right about this. And it bit him in the ass, right?
Well, part of that too is Christians, especially if he was. I don't know if he's evangelical or not, but especially evangelical Christians have we believe we have a charge to share with the rest of the world what we believe. So it would be contrary to his religious principles and his religious beliefs to lie about why he didn't want to service this person. Which actually negates kind of this idea that it's from hate. Because if this guy just hated gays, he'd do exactly what you said. He'd be like, oh, I'm booked all month. I'm sorry, I can't help you, bud. But he didn't. What he actually said was, look, I can almost guarantee this is what's going on in his head. In his head, he's thinking, well, I don't believe this. I think this is wrong. I think this is sinful. I think this is immoral. I'm going to tell these guys. I'm going to share with them my beliefs because who knows? Maybe I'll be the Christian. Yeah. This is naive, but who knows? Maybe I'll be that Christian guy that plants the seed in their hearts, and they'll realize that they're living a life of sin, and they'll repent of their homosexuality and stop being gay. That's not going to happen, guys. We need to accept that this is how they feel is not going to change. But at the same time, like, it's very naive. It's very innocent. I don't think it came from a place of hate. Otherwise, he would have lied.
Well, plus,
he wouldn't have served them. Yeah, or he wouldn't have served them to begin with. And like, I really like you get this kind of very genuine. He and when you look at his cakes and everything like that, and when you're listening to this guy speak, he's very involved. This is art to him. This how bigoted can a cake baker, like, this is what he does for a living, right? Like, so how bigoted can he possibly be? So I think legit he was just kind of trying to be honest and say, hey, I'm really sorry, but I can't do this. I don't feel right.
And see, this brings up, because I've been in circles where they'll do that, where they'll say, oh, well, what if like a Christian paramedic decides not to save a gay person's life? And it's like, okay, hold on. That will never actually happen. The only thing that Christians are going to care about in this context is marriage-related stuff.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
Other than that, you're not, again, because Masterpiece exactly was that way. If a client came in that was gay and they wanted something that was non-wedding related, they were fine with it. They did it. It's only the wedding stuff, which is why I find it incredibly disingenuous.
Well, and to
Some
your
gay couple comes in and says, "Oh, I wanna get a cake." Okay? Even if you didn't know that the cake shop has that policy, it's not like. And again, even among Christians, that's not necessarily going to happen. Again, specifically, a certain segment of evangelical Christians, but it's not even all Christians that will necessarily refuse you. It just depends on which one you're dealing with. That's all. I mean, look at, like, say, Chick-fil-A. That guy is in favor of traditional marriage, yet gays come into Chick-fil-A all the time. He serves them. His business doesn't even deal in the wedding, so that being the case, whether a client is someone is gay or not, you don't care. So, you know.
Something that I found, something that had kind of sparked from this is there's been a few like coffee shops or cafes and stuff that are owned by gay people who have refused to serve Christians and actually have kicked them out. And a few of these videos have gone viral. I don't know if you've seen any of them. I've seen a couple, and they are.
Was it one in Washington? I think Seattle. Where
I have no idea. Oh, it was a big kerfuffle. Like, the guy just was like, "Get out!" And like his partner came out and he was like, "Get out! We're not serving." But there's been a few of these things happening since this where we're not serving Christians, and it's just kind of become this thing.
Right.
Which, okay, like, I'm not really sure how that's helping. I mean, I really feel like, and in that same interview, they showed the gay couple, and they don't sound sincere. They sound like, my feelings were hurt. My bride and my bride are not going to get.
We had to stand up.
That's
so they
right.
couldn't discriminate. It sounds fake. Yeah,
it sounds fucking fake. It sounds fucking
fake.
ridiculous. Like, bullshit. You saw an opportunity and you jumped on it. This is your claim. Like, this is your 15 minutes of fame. Right. Now.
And maybe, 6-figure settlement.
That's right.
Because other cases in blue states, Colorado's a kind of a purple state. It's mostly red, but then, like I said, you got Boulder and Denver. So that's how you have, like, legalized weed and this bakery case. But then, like, I think Colorado went to Trump.
Yeah, easily.
Or barely.
Yeah.
But the thing is these it's not sincere. And actually, I wrote an article about this many years ago about this. So my opposition on a legal sense, like, a lot of people, whenever gay marriage comes up, like, Mormons immediately are like under the gun because of Prop 8 and because of the church's very strong stance on traditional marriage, and so throw out all the window when it comes to me. I don't really care what people do in the privacy of their own home. Just don't make my church do it, and don't make me do it. Don't make me participate. My big thing about gay rights and gay marriage, and the reason why I'm inclined to kind of push back a little bit, is to the point that you kind of touched on, God. It's not about gay rights. It's not about rights. Yeah. There is no right to fucking cake, okay?
Or anything anything
else tied to your wedding.
Or anything else tied to business, right? Like, you have the right to refuse to serve anyone. Like, I, as a business owner, like, if you're a dick in my restaurant, I can ask you to leave. A car dealership doesn't have to sell you a car. Banks don't have to lend you money. They can discriminate against you because you don't have good credit, or because for whatever reason. So you have that.
And that's
choice,
kind of
right?
That's kind of what we've forgotten as a society, I think, is there's good reasons to discrimination itself per se is not bad. We talk about discrimination, and we kind of spit that word out like it's a bad word, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're discriminating. Well, yes, I'm discriminating. I see a thing and I decide if I like it or I don't. And if I don't like it, I don't associate with it.
Right.
Like, that's what I was saying just a few seconds ago is, I don't have a problem per se with gay people or people wanting to enter into civil unions or having a relationship and calling it marriage. I really don't care. It's their business, right? It doesn't break my leg or pick my pocket. Where I push back on gay marriage and where I have a problem with it is I don't see it about rights. I see it as an attempt by a fringe element of the left to try to silence a religious majority. It's an attempt to silence Christians and conservative Jews. It's an attempt to get people to shut up and intimidate and to bully. And I have a problem with bullies, right? But I don't have a problem with two guys that want to shack up or hook up. I don't have a problem with two women that want to do it. Definitely not a problem with two women that are attractive. But this isn't about rights, because to your point, you're saying about discrimination. Discrimination is not the worst thing you can do. Discrimination can be done for good reasons. Discrimination can be done for bad reasons, right? The goal behind due process, the goal behind equal protection under law is to make sure that the government does not discriminate for superficial and arbitrary reasons. We want the government, the people that are in charge of, determining whether or not you go to jail or whether you have to pay a fine or whether or not you get executed. We want those people to have very strict rules about what they can and cannot do or how they can and cannot discriminate. Everyone else, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. If you want to discriminate against someone because they're black, power to you, buddy. You're an asshole, okay? And I don't want to do business with you. Fuck you. But, power to you, man.
Anybody, really.
Right. Well, there's probably a few, alt-right people that are going to say blood and soil and do business with them to keep them in business, because it would be a white genocide not to do business with them, apparently. But, I don't have a problem with, I posted this on Twitter and the group account the other day. I could give two shits if my neighbor is racist. I really don't care. I won't be inviting him over to any potlucks anytime soon.
Right.
But I could not give two shits if he was racist. Right? Now, if he is a fascist who wants to come over to my house at gunpoint and take all my stuff, then I'm going to have a problem with that, and I'm going to do something about it, like shoot back. But, differences in opinion, differences in taste, differences in morality that don't impact you, this shouldn't be an issue. Yeah. Or am I just ranting?
No, it's fine. No, you're fine. Something, though, that I found really interesting, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to read it because I don't have it quite memorized, that because actually I was thinking about this when you said about religious rights. One of the Justice Kennedy on this case, he said, it seems to me that the state in its position here has been neither tolerant nor respectful of Mr. Phillips' constitutional rights. So that's basically his point, is what about his constitutional rights to sell or not sell, and we're all talking about the customer. We're not talking at all about, well, what about the seller? And
I think a lot of people don't care, because I think basically we've kind of gotten to a point where, at least as far as the left is concerned, and people like at the ACLU are concerned, they basically seem to think that Christians are kind of their personal whipping voice. So basically, anytime, I think we've almost been culturally conditioned to the point where, at least on this issue, if you're Christian, you're a viable target. You're basically, Christians are always to be seen as the bigoted ones. And anytime anyone has a complaint against Christians, it's always it's always a complaint worth taking seriously. And whatever the complaint to the Christian is really not that important. And I think that's basically how this has been argued, in a lot of places. And I think it's probably going to be argued, at least by the people defending the customers, in this case, is they're going to say that basically it's not up to, that basically, okay, but these Christians are discriminating, and it's like, okay, what about the rights of the Christian? They're not even going to consider that.
Sorry, my dog. Yeah, and you know what? When John and I when Mike and I were first talking about this, I was sort of on the other side of the fence. I was kind of like, no, the guy's being a douche. He said he was going to bake the cake and then realized it was for a gay. I misunderstood what was the story. And when I got to looking at this a little bit further, and especially once I saw
Say it again. Wait, can you say it again, Kelly?
Mike was less wrong than he usually is.
I'll take it.
Okay. So, but once you see this interview with this guy and see how sincere he is, and so he's not discriminating, he's being just genuine about his religion and about his beliefs. You see, okay, this guy's not being a dick. He's legit, believes that this is not right, and he's standing up for that, and he's getting condemned for it. And I then changed my opinion about it, especially. So if you haven't seen this interview on, I think it's like the Today Show or something, I can't remember. Yep. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go and check it out, because if you're thinking, oh yeah, the guy's a dick for not doing business, yeah, he's, whatever. If you're on the gay side, get out of here. We don't want your cake. Like, go and watch this interview, because you'll see he's being very real, very genuine, not a dick at all. He's being really sincere about how he feels.
But I think people are going to say, like, so what? So what if he's not being a dick? What if he does mean it? Does his religious beliefs then mean that he can tell people to go pound sand when they want him to bake a cake?
Okay, well, why are the customers, why are the clients' religious beliefs, or their whatever, why are they ahead of this guy? It's like, why are their feelings and thoughts and beliefs more important than the people at the Masterpiece Cakes? Like,
well, and I think that's touching on kind of what the real root issue is here. And
I think that's what Justice Kennedy was getting at too, is like, well, you're all talking about these people who want to buy the cake. No one's talking about his rights, who are also, he's well within them.
And that's why I think SCOTUS is probably going to probably approach it that way. But outside of SCOTUS, like, public opinion is probably going to go the other way, because I think a lot of the public, like I said, has been very conditioned to basically assume that any complaint by a Christian is totally meaningless, and if anybody else, because Christians are bigots, they're narrow-minded, they, as Greg, as you remember, Greg DeVries, as he put it, that you care more about your ancient texts than living, breathing people. But it's just like, well, it's just one of those things where it's like, no, we care about people. It's just, again, we just care about all the people, not just one particular set,
Well, I think that's the root of what's going on here with anti-discrimination laws in general. It's that it's not about protecting people from abuses or protecting people from a government, right? People always make the comparison when they talk about this. They make these arbitrary comparisons with, for example, Jim Crow. Here's why this is a bad argument, guys. If any leftists that are watching this, Jim Crow did not let shop owners segregate. It required them to segregate. It made it a law that said that if you were a business owner, you had to have a whites only and a coloreds only section. You had to segregate, whether you wanted to or not, right? And that was actually a form of protectionism, because in a free market, if I own a shop and John owns a shop, and John is racist against black people, well, that's really awkward, for starters. But if John's racist against black people, and I serve anyone who wants to, well, guess who's going to make money, okay? So there's a financial incentive in a free, open market to be welcoming, to be friendly, to be courteous, and to service anyone of all shapes, sizes, creeds, colors, whatever. Right?
And
if you're a racist in a free society, you go out of business.
If you look at actually one of the good examples of that was Southern cab companies. Before they actually, with the removal of Jim Crow, they integrated on their own, simply because they didn't need the Civil Rights Act to do it. Because again, there are a lot of black people in the South. There were at the time. And so they basically said, okay, so companies tried to stick to we're not going to take black people, but eventually the financial incentive to take them was so huge that companies, even if they personally didn't like black people, had no choice but to say, there's kind of lots of money if we do take them. So we kind of
Right.
can't keep ignoring them because that's a lot of money to just leave sitting on the road. You know, someone's going to come along eventually and say, "Oh, look, a pile of money lying around. I think I'm just going to take it." You know?
Right, and that's I don't think the anti-discrimination laws are intended to protect citizens from each other. If we have anti-discrimination laws, they should be designed to protect citizens from government discrimination. But here's the root of the issue. I believe this is seen as a tool by certain voting blocs within the left to bludgeon the opposing voting blocs in the majority. Because nobody cares that Muslim bakeries don't cook for gay couples at all.
That's
proven. Yep.
You know, it's always Christian bakeries that make the news. It's always these Christian and yet, you know, Steven Crowder did a show not too long ago where he would go. He pretended to be a gay man. He did the whole list thing. It was a very talented list, but probably not as good as mine.
No, you do a really good gay Mike.
I do a very good
gay Mike is my favorite.
I'm fabulous, guys. Anyway, he did this. He posed as a gay man. He went to several Muslim bakeries. I think they were all in Dearborn. And he said, "I want you to bake me a cake." And they said, "No. But if you want, you can go down the street. There's some Jewish bakers or some Christian bakers that'll do it for you." And it's like, okay, so why aren't we hearing about these Muslim bakeries on the news? It's because they're not being targeted. They're not, and that's when you know a law is tyrannical. When a law can be arbitrarily used to bludgeon one group or punish one group and not used to punish another group, that's the definition of tyranny. And so I think that's really what this is about. This is about balancing the scales of injustice. That's what social justice is, folks. Putting your finger on the scale, right? And Christian conservatives for a long time were a majority in this country. That to an extent they kind of are, and they need to be punished because they're evil and they're bigoted and they're bad people, and we're going to punish them by suing the shit out of a few of them. But that's the logic.
So that's what I don't understand either. I mean, like, how much money can you be possibly rewarded? And then what's the only thing that can happen here is that, okay, so you win, you're awarded this money, they file for bankruptcy, you get nothing.
Because it's not about the money. It's about power.
Exactly.
This is like when you kill a few animals and you string them up as a warning to the rest to stay away. Nobody else does that? Okay, maybe I'm the only sociopath here. Maybe I'm the only psycho here. That's what this is. They're gutting a few animals and then hanging them up on the trees so that all the other animals are like, I'm not gonna hang out here, right? It's meant to send a message to anyone else who might say, I have a certain set of religious beliefs. I want to be true to those beliefs, and that means not participating in certain things. This is designed to make those people who say, I don't want to go bankrupt. I don't want to lose my livelihood. I don't want to lose my business. I'll just bake the fucking cake.
Right. And that's probably what I would have done. Like, personally, I would have been like, all right. But, or,
it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Right. Yeah, you know what? I think honestly, if it was me, I would have said, you know what? I really can't. I wouldn't have said why. I would have said, I really can't. I'm sorry, but I would call around for them, and I would say, you know what? I've actually contacted so and so, and they'd be more than happy to. So, like, that's personally what I would do. I wouldn't say it's because really. I wouldn't say nothing. I wouldn't say anything. I would just say, I'm really sorry. I can't do it at this time. However, I've contacted so-and-so, and they're more than happy to speak with you about this. I do it all the time at my work. If we can't accommodate a client, I say, actually, you know what, so-and-so can actually probably take you in. And it works very well. They're appreciative. So why not? If you can't accommodate them for whatever reason, say, hey, down the street there, though, I know for a fact that they're looking for this. Or I know that they can do this for you. Yeah. Like, why not?
Although I gotta admit, there have been a couple of cases where honestly, I do love to watch the left's reaction to them because it becomes a nice installment of which sacred cow should I barbecue? Because like there was a case, actually it was in Canada if I remember correctly, where a lesbian went to a Muslim-owned barber shop and they wouldn't take her. And leftists literally did not know what to do. They were just paralyzed. It's like, what? I don't know what to. And then they does not compute. And then they're all wanting to like.
They got the blue screen of death like across their face.
Right. Like memory dump reboot. It was like, honestly, it was just hilarious to watch the total paralysis of these people who couldn't figure out what are we supposed to do. So honestly, sometimes it is kind of amusing just to watch that, because and again, I'd love to see if they ever took seriously the cases where Crowder showed that Muslim bakeries don't take case. I'd love to see leftists like just show, like do the man on the street thing where you show the video and say, do you think this is bad? Do you think this is bad? Like go out to some leftist enclave like Berkeley and just, do you think this is a bad thing? Yeah, actually don't tell them who the people are, right? First, make them think they're Christians. Oh, that's terrible. They're bigots. Actually, they're Muslims. And then they just kind of sit there.
Well, that would be like the same thing that we talked about last week with the two guns, right? Painted like, well, which one of these is worse? Like, why not? Like,
right.
So I want to switch. The one concern I do have with the kind of defense of the bakers that's going on here is the argument seems to be, well, their religious rights, and that's all well and good. The problem I have is, are we then saying that, well, anti-discrimination laws are good and the government should be able to tell people how to do business, right? Unless you hold a certain religious belief, then we should, like, are we now in the process of basically pitting two protected classes against each other, and the winner is whoever the people decide they like the most?
Right. And
what do you guys think?
Well, Cammy wants to. Excuse me, but your wife would like to know where the cake is. I'm just reading the chat. I'm just reading the chat right now. She's like, cake? Question mark. Cake.
I have no regrets whatsoever.
I was gonna say.
I'm telling her. I'm legit messaging her. He ate it.
Okay, you're gonna get him killed.
I'm aware. It makes for good viewership, so it's fine.
Oh, right. So if we come back and there's only two of us next week, you know why.
When Cammy is here next week instead.
Yeah.
Here's my take. What if the baker was atheist, right?
Right.
What if he was an atheist who just he has very strong feelings on marriage, about he believes that marriage is a pillar of society, and that's something that should be protected and preserved, and it shouldn't be mutated or conform to other people's ideas, because if you do that, then you run the risk of breaking down society and ending civilization. And he has all these very rational, very logical, very philosophical beliefs, but he's an atheist that has nothing to do with religion. Do we say, okay, the atheist still has a right to deny or to refuse to bake the cake for the gay wedding?
Well, I think so, because even though it's not a particular religion, it's still a faith-based ideal, right? Like, but this is something that he believes, right, or values. Okay. It's the same thing as like, well, what if it was a vegan bakery and I come in and I'm like, no, use fucking eggs and milk and shit, and they're like, no, but that's against, right? So I feel like you have the right to refuse the business regardless, because that's, do you see what I'm saying though about it being
right? And that's why I think the freedom of association argument is much stronger, because then it doesn't matter what the person believes, although that's leaving aside the fact that I do think atheism is a religion, and I think veganism basically borders on one. But the thing is,
right.
But yeah, it's a.
You can throw CrossFitters in there too while you're at it.
Right. It's CrossFit. CrossFit is definitely a religion. There is no question.
No, it's a cult.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, but
it's bad when the Mormons calling you a cultist.
Right. or the unificationists, for that matter. But the but that's just it. I think the freedom of association argument is much stronger. It's simply because then it doesn't matter why. The point is, you can refuse business to anyone for any reason. At that point, your reasons for doing so completely are out of play. They don't matter. The point is that if I want to refuse business because I don't like your face, then I have that right, and you don't have the right to tell me I can't. You can go somewhere else. Now, I'll lose business. I'm sure someone will give me a bad review, blah, 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 and I'll lose business. So that kind of guides what people will ask, is it worth it? But the point is that freedom of association, I think, is a stronger argument than the religious freedom argument, or the one that Masterpiece is using, which is the artistic freedom argument. I think that both of those, while they're not bad arguments, I don't think they're the strongest argument.
So do you think that he should be... Go ahead. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
I was to say. So, John, what do you say then to someone who says, "Well, then so you're okay with discrimination? You think people should have a right to discriminate?"
Yes, absolutely. If some KKK member decides that I don't want black people, I don't like blacks, Mexicans, or Chinese people, then that's up to him. Guess what? If you live in an area primarily made up of blacks, Mexicans, and Chinese people, you're going to go bankrupt. That's on you. I don't really care. The thing is that, so yes, I am saying that people should have a right to discriminate. That's exactly what I'm saying, is that yes, if they want to discriminate, even if they are racist, I don't care. Let them do it. They'll fail for it, but that's their business. You're going to fail. Nobody likes racists today, and you're going to lose your business because you do so. So the way I see it, why not? They have the right to do that. So, that's the way I see it. And that's the strongest argument to make for Masterpiece or anybody else. And that's what will protect atheists who by most people's estimation do not have religious beliefs, and will protect anybody else, because it's not about their religion. It's not about their art. It's not about anything but I have the right to associate with who I want, when I want, under the terms I want. And that's it. If they agree to those terms, great. If they don't agree to those terms, there's lots of other places to go.
Kelly?
Much better argument.
Well, I just want to ask this question. So do you think that he's lost twice now, like in the court system, because of the arguments that he's making? Like, do you think that's the reason why he's failing?
You're talking about Masterpiece in particular?
Yeah, Masterpiece. Why?
Are you asking me or are you asking John?
Both of you.
Okay, so I think that's part of it. I don't think there's a lot of sympathy in today's America for religious-based choices,
Right.
especially if that religion is Christian, especially if that religion is Mormon. In fact, somebody pointed out on Twitter, it's kind of a side note, but it's like, we can't vote for a Mormon for president, but we'll vote for a child. We'll vote for a child molesting senator, if he's not Mormon. It was just really weird. But I think there's a lot of hostility to religion. So I think I think John is right. It's a bit of a weaker argument, not just because it kind of acknowledges the premise that anti-discrimination laws are based on, which is that you have to have the government come step in and tell people who they can do business with or not do business with, because if the government is not telling you how to run your business, then people will just discriminate against each other, and it's bad. And then we turn around and say, well, yeah, that premise is true, but we still got to protect people's religious rights. Well, that's well and good, right up until people are hostile to religion, and then you got a problem. I would actually dovetail too off of what John was talking about, freedom of association. I would say property rights. Right. And one of the things that annoys me about these kind of discussions or court cases is nobody seems to have any fucking clue what public means. It's like, it's a private business. No, it has public access. That's not what public means, you dumb shit.
I heard that.
This is a hot button for me. It pisses me off. Okay?
Well, because
public does not mean that people can come in and out of it freely. That is not what public means, okay? If we are talking about property, it is either private property, which means somebody owns it, or it's public property, which means everybody or nobody really owns it. Okay, a bakery is not a public business because it has public access. It is a privately owned business. It belongs to someone, i.e. the baker. It's his property. he can do whatever the fuck he wants with it, okay?
Right.
Like if he wants to like set it on fire, as long as he's not doing that for insurance fraud purposes, he can set it on fire. I don't care. Like as long as the fire doesn't spread. If fire spreads, then he's liable and he's got to pay for damages. But if he somehow manages to contain the fire so it only destroys his bakery, I don't give a shit. Okay.
Right. But just say he's a dumbass and move on.
Like that.
And that's
burn down your bake. That's really weird. Okay. Well, you have a nice day.
Right.
It's private property. I can do whatever the hell I want with my property, on my property. I can do what I want. And if you don't like it, fuck off. Get off my property, okay? Get off my lawn, all right? That's what this is. Get the hell off my lawn, okay?
I'm not going to run too far down a bunny trail, but this actually does apply also to the whole net neutrality thing, which, again, I'm just going to leave that at that. But I'm just saying it does apply there, too. It's
property rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And for those of you that do not know this already, pursuit of happiness, it was code, okay? It was secret code for property. They didn't want, the northern states did not want the southern states to say, well, we got a right to property, and that's why we can have slaves.
Yep.
It's like, no. You have the right to pursue happiness, okay, guys? How do you pursue happiness? With stuff. All right? You can buy stuff, and that stuff makes you happy, right? You can buy a house, and that makes you happy. You can buy a car, and that makes you happy. You can go take the stuff that you don't want and give it to charity, and that makes you happy. Okay? That's what the pursuit of happiness is. You need fucking stuff. All right? And as long as I'm not hurting you with my stuff, and by the way, me not baking you a cake with my property is not hurting you.
Yeah,
I'm not breaking your leg. I'm not picking your pocket. Okay? I might be hurting your fee-fees.
Right,
suck it up, Buttercup. No one gives a shit about your fucking feelings.
Well, see, that's the problem is that, and like I said, this also relates to the whole, anybody saying that, you don't, again, I can't help but relate it back to the whole transgender thing where it's, you don't acknowledge that men can be women and, women have penises. And it's like, so therefore you're hurting me. Therefore you're violating my humanity. You're debating whether I'm human or not. No, I just don't care. And your premise makes no sense. But that's just it, is we're arguing at this point that me not doing something for you somehow is an act of, honestly, I'm waiting for the day that they say, no, I'm waiting for the day that they say it's an act of violence. Because they're already saying that about.
They're already saying
that about transgenderism. It's just a matter of time before they say not baking me a cake is an act of violence. And I'm waiting for that day because the minute it comes, I'm going to realize that the social justice movement has done what nothing else has been able to do, which is jump the shark twice.
So I'm wondering. Okay, so you kind of bring up a good point with the whole transgender thing. I'm wondering, when do we get to the point where, just like baking a cake, not baking a cake for a gay wedding is seen as some like huge discrimination thing that should be punished by the government. When do we go from there to not dating someone because they're trans? Because you find out that she's really a he.
And then
it's already been there. Already there.
Like somebody hits on me, and I find out that she's a he. Am I going to get sued? Because I'm like, no, I don't date guys. I'm not, but I identify as a woman.
I'm not a guy.
You have a dick.
You're violating my rights.
You have a penis. All right, that's like a deal breaker for me. Okay.
Why? It's just a piece of flesh, no different than the other one. It's like, no, it's very different.
No, it's very different. That's why in plumbing we have the female part and the male part, and they go together. Okay.
apparently that low-level biology there never got taught there. That's very cute.
I remember when I was back before I quit Scouts because I hate the scouting program. But I had a really cool scout teacher person. What are they called? Scoutmasters, and he was teaching us how to weld. He had an acetylene welding torch.
Wow. Neat.
And it was pretty awesome. And so he brought some pipe and some piping, and he said, all right, so you insert the male part into the female part. I'm like, okay, the risk of something stupid, which part's the male part and which part's the female part? I was like 12, okay, so shut the fuck up. He's like, you know biology, right? And I'm like, yes. He's like, there you go. I'm like, oh, okay, so it is that simple. All right, cool.
Well, and I guess bringing this full circle, I find it also funny that I feel like on the one hand, transgenderism is really frustrating, but on the other hand, it's kind of funny because it kind of undercuts things that the left has believed for years. And one of them is being gay, is that being gay kind of rests on gender. What have gays been trying to convince us of for the last 30
That's
years?
immutable.
That we're born that way. We're born that way. Well, guess what? How do we know you're born that way if we don't even know what gender you are? Because if a guy says, I feel I'm attracted to men, I must be gay. Or you might be a woman. Did you ever think that?
Right.
Maybe you're a woman.
Maybe you're just
really a gay man.
I've always stipulated that I am a lesbian trapped in the body of a man. That joke fell flat.
We got the point.
You're not the first person I've heard say that, though. I was going to say I have another friend who said the same thing.
But did he get lesbian cake because of it? I got lesbian cake because of it.
Okay.
Oh, really?
So
that's impressive.
Really?
That's actually quite impressive.
So when it's funny when you're talking about tolerance. Here's the thing: these people are getting death threats from the tolerant side.
Right.
They're not tolerant. Fuck you! I'm gonna kill you because you didn't serve me cake.
Which I think that's extortion, isn't it? If you say, "Give me X, or I will do you bodily harm," that's the literal definition of extortion.
What? His wife, and they're not young, right? They're an older couple, and legit, the wife is afraid to go into work because they've gotten multiple death threats over this, and it's like, you people are sitting there preaching tolerance, and then you're going to send death threats.
I'd be carrying my gun to work every day.
That's always the case with the left, right? We hear that, we're against violence. Punch a Nazi.
I'm going to kill you. Yeah.
It's like, okay, wait, what?
Right. Well, because again, Nazis are violent. How are they violent? Because they're talking.
I know.
They're talking? Oh my God.
I would like to stipulate, I think we should stipulate that if all you do is say racist shit, you're not really a Nazi. You're just a dumbass skinhead who says racist shit.
I know.
And maybe suffers from a bit of flop sweat under your breast because
I'm sorry. I have to bring this up. Did either of you see there was a video of Richard Spencer? He went to I think it was the University of Florida, and again, the irony is this is not so much about Spencer. This is about how unbelievably stupid the left is because they don't realize that speech is not violence, and that if they would let people speak, it would actually screw them over. It would screw over the person speaking, but instead they actually make it worse. So Spencer goes, and he has this forum where he's talking, and you look at the camera shows the back of the room. There's 60 protesters back there trying to shut him up. You realize, how many people actually came to hear Spencer speak? Maybe 10. 12. So I'm like, you outnumber the audience 5 times. Did it ever occur to you that maybe if you just didn't do anything, people might look at the gathering that Spencer brought together and go like, wow, this guy's kind of not a big deal. Drawing like a dozen people. There's
a really cool Game of Thrones called, and I actually don't watch Game of Thrones, but I stumbled upon this.
I do.
That was really awesome.
I don't either.
It was okay, so maybe you know the quote because I'm probably going to butcher it. But it's from the dwarf. What's his name?
Tyrion.
Tyrion. Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to get it wrong. I know it's Lannister. I didn't know what the fuck his name was.
Wow, you know more than I do.
So, but he says if cutting out a man's tongue doesn't prove him wrong. It just says you were afraid of what he had to say to begin with.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Right.
And And that's what the left is basically signaling. And the reason they're doing that, they want to prove that they're morally superior to everyone.
Yeah.
And instead, all they're proving is that they're scared of what other people have, what dissenting views have to say. Like, they're actually, like, you're basically saying, I don't have an argument against hate.
Yes.
That's like the easiest thing to argue against. Are you shitting me? How stupid do you have to be to not be able to argue against hate? It's the easiest thing in the world to beat in a debate, okay?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that Richard Spencer, of all people, really, he's the guy. We need to shut him up. Why?
Just let him shoot himself in the foot. That's what he does best. It's the one thing he can do right, okay? He can shoot himself in the foot. That's all he knows how to do.
Yeah, but it's like he's pointing the gun at his foot and they take the gun away. No, he's going to kill someone. Dude, where did he have it pointed? It was like straight down. I think it was fine. Leave it with. No, we need to take the gun.
No, just let him be stupid.
Or it's like he's got the rope. He's ready to hang himself. Quick, take the rope.
Same thing with bakers. Same thing with bakers. If you think bakers are really hiding behind what, as Cory Booker says, the thin veneer of religion, it's like, okay, it's not really a thing. Like, people, like, do you know what my religion asked me to give up? Okay, I can't drink, I can't smoke, I can't gamble, I can't have sex outside of marriage. Like, I can't do anything fun, okay? Do you really think I do this so that I can, like, tell gays they can't have cake? All right? Like, I can come up with so much better reasons to
well, I'd like to think that having sex out of marriage is not fun. That, your wife is wonderful. Well, I'd like to think that your wife is wonderful, and
she's very wonderful. I love my wife, and she's probably watching this show right now. So,
which is why I was saying.
My point is being religious. If you are actually devout and religious, right, you have to give up a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're Jewish and you are Muslim, you have to give up bacon. You really think they would give up bacon?
Yeah.
So they can tell gays no wedding cake? Like, that's so dumb. Yeah, nobody does that, okay?
Preach, brother. Honestly, you don't give up bacon.
It's not the fear veneer of religion. People actually believe this stuff, okay? I completely forgot where I was going with that. I actually had.
Doesn't matter. Point. Don't take away my bacon or my fucking cake, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can make
bacon flavored cake. Right? That's what it's at.
I was just thinking, like,
let's
do some bacon on that cake.
But I mean, I remember now. It came back to me.
Okay, go for it.
If you really honest to God believe, and I don't think they actually believe it, but if you really honest to God believe that religious people are just truly motivated by hate, and that's all, and they sit there and they like stroke their Bibles like some evil Bond villain, like, yes, my precious, they're going to take over the world and rob all the gays of their cake. Like, if you really believe that that's what religious people do all day, is we sit here and plot how to take over the world, take away gay cake. Still, let us be assholes, and then you can prove it. Like, see, I knew it. That guy is a fucking asshole. Fuck those people.
That's legit. What I
do with those guys.
No, seriously. How did you know? That's what I was doing all day.
I don't think it was the Bible you were stroking, Kelly.
Whatever, it's fine. It was totally something else. But whatever. There was cake and there was bacon and it was good. I'm fine.
Right.
And that sounds like an amazing Friday night. All right. It's Saturday.
Don't get ahead of me.
I was going to say it's or behind, I guess, right? Well, never. That doesn't sound right.
She wants me to get behind her. I mean, where were we?
Cake and bacon.
Cake and
bacon. Something. Well, how can we involve bacon? And what we're. So I think we should change the name of the show, the topic tonight, to like, how can we add bacon and cake?
Bring home the bacon.
Has anybody ever had bacon donuts? Because that just sounds like a horrible.
Oh yes, I have. Brilliant idea. Yes, see right here.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it really good?
Yeah.
Because the bacon always looks gross.
Maple and bacon. No.
Bacon is the duct tape of food. It goes with everything.
chocolate covered bacon, bacon roses.
Yes.
Okay, no, bacon roses I can get behind because that's just bacon in a cute little floral arrangement.
Bacon apple pie.
I know.
Bacon apple
Right?
pie. That's one of my Thanksgiving
Chocolate,
traditions.
caramel,
Bacon apple. Okay, now that I have to try. Bacon apple pie.
I've done that. It's really easy to make too. And I made one for some Mormon friends because they reminded me that they can eat pork because I wasn't sure at the time. But so
yes,
yeah.
no, you give us all.
I want
the
some
bacon.
of that.
Okay, everybody,
Give me the
if the
bacon.
Mormon missionaries come to your door, okay, the best way you can say no is just say, guys, I'm not interested, but here's a plate of bacon. That might
I
not.
am not giving up my bacon. I
I was
don't
gonna say that might not keep them from coming back. They may come back, but they can guarantee you they're only coming back for the bacon at that point.
Right.
So they're not. They don't care about at that point. They're not there to talk to you about Jesus. They're there to talk about, hey, is there any more bacon?
Yep, exactly. Like, hey, what do you know? I got a pound right here. So like, yeah, but I mean, yeah. In the end, I think you're right. Is that people, and this is part of what we were talking about, where people have been conditioned essentially to see Christians as these evil, bigoted people like Dr. Evil, sitting in their lairs plotting how to make gays miserable. And it's like, that really is the point. I think is that we kind of that's another reason why I think better to argue rather than religious freedom, just argue freedom of association for that reason too, because the culture has been so toxified against Christianity specifically, then that at this point, if Christians do anything, it's bigoted, which is ironic because when Muslims are actually bigoted, then they just like, their culture. It's just how they do
It's just the religion, guys. Don't be such a hater, okay?
right?
They don't know any better. They're Muslims, okay?
Which is also incredibly demeaning because
Which is also very condescending and bigoted.
Like Ari Fleischer's video. Like, hey, black people don't know how to get voter ID. But anyway,
I'm really hungry right now. My stomach just growled.
I'm
bacon
gonna
or
go eat
cake.
some
I'm
bacon
pretty
after
mad. I
I
know.
say you're
Get a Snickers.
As it is, your wife wants me to do some cooking for you, so there was that. She did. Remember, she was saying that. She was like, she'd be happy to have me over there to cook for you. So.
No, you're cooking for me.
No, you're cooking.
that's-
You're both coming over and I'll cook for you. Anyway, that's all the time we've got for tonight, folks. So be sure to follow us on Twitter. We've got the group podcast Twitter up. I'm so happy.
Yes.
Oh, and that's all thanks to our producer, Kelly, who's our lovely new addition to the show. Follow us at ornery_opinions. We're going to get a website up soon here, and then we'll have a link. Ooh,
I know. That's going to be exciting.
Make sure to follow John here as well on his Twitter host. Am I saying that right? At Kemudi Hurioku. I'm not going to spell it. We'll put it in the comment section later. And so just, don't worry about it. And? Oh, yes. And also follow Kelly. I'm so sorry. I'm so used to it.
No longer redacted.
Follow her at Blue Fox Assassin, spelled like it sounds. I always get assassin spelled wrong anyway, but if you type in Blue Fox, you probably will find it.
Yep.
So, and then make sure to follow us on Facebook if you can find us.
Ornery Young Guns. Just search Ornery Young Guns. It's right there. I mean, it's easy.
Ornery Young Guns, yes. We'll be moving that. We'll be moving from that medium to the website once that's up. So,
yes.
Thanks again, guys, for following us and subscribing to us. Please share with your friends.
If you want to send us bacon, just DM us and we'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
There will be a lot set up.
I have lots of uses for it. So.
I have a feeling we're going to get like bacon with white powder on it from liberals that are now mad at us for our pro property rights. By the way, we're pro property rights. That's what this is. Okay. And it's not a thin veneer of property rights. It's my fucking stuff. Okay. All right. You guys have a good night. Thanks for watching the show.